go.
Good evening and welcome to Brooklyn Borough Hall. For those who don't know me, my name is Abe Friedman. I serve as the Director for Brooklyn Borough Hall for the Borough President. I would like to welcome all of you tonight to this special occasion of meet and greet the Honorable Police Commissioner William Bratton. As you know, since the Brooklyn Borough President got elected, he opened up the door, Brooklyn Borough Hall, to be open to meet and greet leaders, clergy of all faith, to come in here and connect and make progress and make Brooklyn a better city to live. I'm especially honored that we have here the commissioner that recently, when I attend events or meetings with him, he uses the word collaboration a lot. I think a primary goal is to collaborate and communicate with community leaders, and he believes the same as the Brooklyn Borough President believes, that with collaboration and interaction with community leaders, you could do so much more, especially building the bridge between the NYPD and community leaders. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up the Honorable Borough President Eric Adams.
Thank you so much. And probably as you realize here in the building is buzzing with energy on every corner of Borough Hall. There's so much that's taking place, and this is a normal day for those of us here. Diana and I, my Deputy Borough President, we made it clear when we were elected that this beautiful edifice is not going to be just a place where Brooklynites walk past without realizing that this is their house. It is not my house. It is not my address. It is the house of the people of the borough of Brooklyn, a place that I like to call the center of the universe. There are two people in this city, those who live in Brooklyn and those who wish they did, you know? So we are excited. We are excited that this administration has made it clear that policing community is one. There were challenges often in the interaction of those who provide public safety in our community. And as you see from the presence here today, with all of the men and women who are part of the command staff, those who serve in Brooklyn, many of the, all of the precinct commanders, both of our chiefs, Brooklyn North and Brooklyn South, who's always one phone call away. And Commissioner, I can't say enough about both of the chiefs in the borough of Brooklyn and their responsiveness and how they just have a clear line of communication and to ensure that the people of this borough is served. I'm happy to have Commissioner Bratton here with us. He stated when he walked into my two-chandelier office that last time he was here was with Howard Golden, and that was many days ago. Many of you know that not only did I serve under him in the New York City Transit Police Department, but after the merger, I served with him in the NYPD, and I was really happy to see his return to the city and what it has to offer. And I think that the legacy has not been completely written on a number of lives that his innovative policing style. During the time when he started in the transit police, people thought that you could not bring down crime, that police officers had no role in the decrease in crime. And he came in with the energy and stated that, yes, we can. I think Obama coined that phrase after you coined it. You know, it was clear that we did it in the transit police. And then when he went to the NYPD, many of you recall our communities were riddled with crack and crime and violence, and people gave up on the possibilities of safe streets. And he introduced the broken window concept with the understanding that after you clean up a community, then you move into the community and develop relationships. And we saw a drastic decrease in crime that did not cease throughout the years. And it didn't only take root here, but if you crisscross America and you see the local officials all across the country and all across the globe that stopped at One Police Plaza to see how CompStat changed the lives of policing and in return changed the lives of everyday human beings that occupy cities that they felt that they were under siege by crime and violence. It was an amazing tenure as a police official. And so, for the mayor of the city of New York to tap into his expertise and ask him to return to the city to finish the job, because it's far from over. When 14-year-olds shoot innocent people on buses with no regard for the children and the families who are on those buses, when you see the crime that is still impacting our community, we know that we have to have a constitutionally friendly aspect of policing to teach people they can live safe without feeling in disgrace. And that's the energy that this commissioner has brought to the city of New York. And so we wanted to spend a day to allow him to come in and give you an overview of his vision and let you see how we're going to continue to move the city closer and closer to a crime-free environment. But the men and women in blue uniforms can't do it alone. We need the everyday people in blue suits and blue jeans. We need to be part of this process. It is a marriage between the community and the police department that's going to turn this borough into a safe borough. And I said this at my inauguration. You're not going to agree in everything what the police commissioner will do. I don't agree with myself all the time. But you will find that you have a common denominator, that his style is to protect the people of this city. He did that as a soldier in Vietnam. He did it as a police officer in Boston and later moved up through the ranks. And he's going to continue to do it here in the city of New York. We're going to benefit by his presence and the atmosphere that his commanders is going to bring in the police department that will trickle down to every law enforcement officer in the city. That no matter what they thought policing was about, there's a new sheriff in town called Commissioner Bill Bratton, and we're going to have a safe environment to police in. Thank you very much, and we will now hear from the Commissioner of the City of New York.
Thank you, Mr. Borough President. How far he has come from his transit days. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you for being here to join with the leadership team here in Brooklyn North, Brooklyn South, that along with the thousands of cops and civilians they work with, are working very hard every day, day in and out, with you to make Brooklyn as safe as it can be. And it has become so much safer than it was when I first visited in 1990 as chief of the transit police. But as Eric talked about, the events of the last several weeks, the two shooting incidents involving bus transportation here, the one involving two officers, with one officer being shot, and then the events of the past week with the tragic death of the young man going between his two jobs, shot to death by a 14-year-old with a gun that he should not have had, indicates that there is still so much work that needs to be done. And that work cannot be done by the police alone. As good as we are, as good as we're getting, and we are getting so much better all the time, that we cannot do it without you. Dealing with crime, dealing with fear, dealing with disorder requires a community that is involved, a community that's committed. So it's so great to see so many of you out here in the audience wanting to be here tonight with your political leadership, with the police leadership, religious leaders, community leaders, members of the community, all races and creeds, here because you have the same passion and the same goal to make this city safe for you, your families, your children, and for all who would seek to come to Brooklyn and enjoy all that Brooklyn has to offer. I first came to New York City in 1990, April of 1990, as chief of the transit police. I have a lot of familiarity with this area of Brooklyn. At that time, our headquarters was right across the street at J Street before they built the Marriott Hotel, the first hotel to have been built in many a decade here. and I had many opportunities to be in this building. I used to hold my command staff management leadership meetings in this very room shortly after it was remodeled. And I have a great affinity and affection for this part of the city. Frank, the barber at the Gamesman around the corner on Shimmerhorn Street, he's now over on Broadway, was a good friend, and I'm a little in need of a haircut. If he was open a little later tonight, I would have stopped over there to get the haircut while I'm here. But no, I have a great affection and a great affinity for Brooklyn, as I do for the city as a whole, and now as police commissioner, my responsibilities for the city as a whole. Eric talked about 1990, the transit police. We both had the great fortune, the great good fortune, to work with a transit police lieutenant. His name was Jack Maple. Jack was quite a character, to say the least, quite a legendary character. And Jack had one strong belief, and that belief was that something could be done about crime. And at a time when much of the political leadership in this city, indeed many of the community leaders in this city, did not believe that really there was much we could do, it was what it was. No, he thought differently. And Eric and I, along with at that time, the 4,000 men and women of the transit police, had the opportunity to take some of his ideas and put them into place. And that began a turnaround in the subway system. The turnaround in crime in New York City began in the subway system in 1990, 1991. That at that time we were averaging about 75 major crimes a day in the subway, 22 murders, thousands of crimes. On an average day today in the subway system that now carries 5.5 million people a day. Think of that. 5.5 million people a day ride public transit in this city. On average, that Chief James Fox, who is here from the Transit Police, will be happy to talk about his crime numbers, about 6 reported crimes a day on that system. So here in the heart of the city, the arteries of the city, the lifeblood of the city, the transit system, 5.5 million people from 200 some odd different countries, from all different types of faiths and backgrounds, get together, go to work together, go to school together, go to entertainment together, go back and forth to homes together, and they do it in peace. I believe that the symbol of this city should be the subway pole. The subway pole, when you see all those hands, black, white, yellow, that all of those different skin complexions, all of those different levels of economic viability. The subway pole, we tend to look at the Statue of Liberty in the harbor as a symbol of New York. I think it's the subway pole. Because what the subway pole denotes is that this city can, in fact, come together. This city can work together in very crowded circumstances. And our intention going forward, the New York City Police Department, is to emulate that subway pole, to make the department look like New York City. And this year, over 50% of the members of the uniform patrol officer ranks are from minority groups, so that the department is increasingly reflective of what is increasingly a minority-majority city. We are a city where people come from all over the world to find employment, to find opportunity, to live in peace. And we can make it even more peaceful than it has become, because the events of last week reinforced that there is still too much crime, although it is down so dramatically from what it was in the late 80s and early 90s, but more can be done. We are committed, those that you see before you in the blue uniforms, and I'm sure as I look out at you, that you are committed, otherwise you would not be here, to work with us. And we need you, we want you, and we want to work with you. Our commitment to you is that we are going to continue to police this city in a way that will make it safe, but also in a way that will increase your confidence in us, that will increase your trust in us, that will increase the legitimacy of what we do, because what we do will have your full support, will have your full authorization. We intend to police constitutionally. We will not break the law to enforce the law. We intend to police respectfully, and I do mean respectfully. We do intend to police consistently. We will not police differently in a rich neighborhood from a poor neighborhood. And we will police compassionately, because we are policing people, and we will always appreciate that. I'm a great admirer of Sir Robert Peel, who created the British Metropolitan Police, really the first organized police force in a civilized city back in the 1820s. And he had 9 principles of policing that were so important then and are so important today. And first and foremost of those was that we the police, we are the people, and the people are us. Because where do police come from? They come from you, your communities. We don't come in here from Mars or the moon or someplace. We're born and raised in the same communities where you are, and particularly in this city and increasingly in this city. So we are the people, and the people are the police, and together we, in fact, can do great things together. You hear the term collaboration quite frequently. I'm a great believer in that. I don't believe in fighting unnecessarily. Sometimes you have to fight to get a point across, but I don't believe in fighting unnecessarily. I believe in partnership. I believe in coordination. I believe in collaboration. So you'll not see the New York City Police Department fighting with any other law enforcement agency, nor will you see us fighting with you. There's too much we can do together collectively. And to that end, over the last several months, since I was privileged to be appointed by Mayor Bill de Blasio, and Mayor de Blasio basically ran on the platform that he would ensure that this police department, after all the controversies of the last several years around the issue of stop, question, and frisk, that he would reform that system. But he would reform it in a way that we would not lose our momentum to continue reducing crime. We would police smarter, we would police more collaboratively, and we would continue to try to do everything we can to address fear disorder in the city. And so let me talk briefly about what we have been doing these last 60 to 90 days. The leadership team you see around you and behind me, over the last several months, I've had an opportunity to meet many of the leaders that have been in this department. And over the last several months, I've had the opportunity to make some decisions about, as I seek to move the department forward to get more collaboration with the community, it became important to, in some respects, shuffle the deck. I am very fortunate that at the senior levels of this organization, there are almost 900 to 1,000 captains and above, highly professional, highly skilled, highly committed, who work countless hours for this city and for you, and for the goal of continuing to reduce crime and disorder. So I had a wide range of people to select, to assign, some to promotion capacity, others to reassignment, try and put the right people in the right place at the right time. So over the last several months, we have been moving a lot of people in the organization. A lot of the people beside me and behind me have been moved around into different precinct commands, different borough commands, different assignments, to try to continue to re-energize them, try to basically take their ideas from one assignment to another assignment, to try to give them new opportunities to promote, to try to give them new environments to be reinvigorated. And so over these past 2 months, we have been doing that, and in the past week have just about completed that. There are several additional reassignments to come, but the bulk of what was planned has in fact occurred. I recently, on Friday, had the opportunity to present at the City Council the budget that the mayor is giving us for this coming year. And I'm very pleased to report that the mayor committed during his campaign that he would support this department, he would advocate for it, and the budget that he is advocating will in fact give us the resources to continue the job of driving crime down, to continue the job of improving our relations with you, the community. So that budget will allow for the level funding of the number of officers we currently have, but as importantly, will continue the overtime that is so essential to allow these precinct commanders to put officers where they're needed, when they're needed. Over the last 12 years, unfortunately, the department lost 6,000 police officers. All the officers that were hired during David Dinkins' Safe Streets, Safe Neighborhoods initiative in the early 90s are now gone. The average precinct in this city, your precinct, lost over the last 12 years 70 to 80 police officers. That's a lot of cops to lose in one precinct. It put phenomenal stress on the men and women around me and behind me to try and do more with less. Even though crime was down, there was still too much crime, and there were great expectations on the part of the community. They have been doing it. But to assist them has been the use of overtime, which is absolutely critical. Without that overtime, we could not police this city as effectively as it has been done. So I applaud the mayor in his support for the department in the sense of the funds that we will have for technology, for equipment, for overtime, for police officers. And we are going to also look to see if we can begin a process of trying to do something about our capital situation, which is our buildings. Those of you who have occasion to visit most of our police facilities understand that they are in deplorable condition. And that's unfortunate, because it works against our being able to serve you to the best of our ability. It works against these commanders being able to give their officers the resources they need to work with. So we will seek to address that in these tight fiscal times. But moving forward, I believe that we have a budget that we can work with. I certainly know that we have a leadership team that you can have confidence in, because I certainly have confidence in them. And they have the capacity, as they've clearly shown, to do what they can with what they have and to go the extra mile if they can. One of the good things about what has happened in the transition, you may recall there were several mayoral candidates who were predicting Armageddon, that if Mayor de Blasio was elected, the sky was going to fall, the earth was going to open up, we were all going to be swallowed up, that crime was going to come roaring back, that it was all over, New York was gone. Well, it hasn't happened, has it? And the good news is that the momentum that was created over these last 20 years is continuing. Even now into the third month of this new year, the third month of Mr. de Blasio's administration, crime is still continuing to fall, and still continuing to fall very happily here in Brooklyn North and Brooklyn South. Not in every category, but in the categories that count in terms of the homicides, the shootings, the slashings, we are making every effort to save lives everywhere we can. And not just in dealing with traditional crime areas, but also in the area of traffic and pedestrian fatalities, where so many lives are lost that this year there's a potential to lose more lives in traffic accidents than in the traditional murders. Good news there also, and Chief Tommy Chan is here with me, the chief that's now been put in charge of the Transportation Bureau. He is going to be leading the police department effort in Vision Zero to improve the safety for you, for your families, for your children, throughout the city, around the schools, around the subway stations, on the streets of your home, to see if we cannot reduce even further the carnage on the streets. So we're going to be making efforts everywhere we can to save lives, to improve lives, and to do all that we can with our resources to meet your needs and your priorities. And certainly that issues that Mr. Adams has championed, one of them being the idea that every police officer in the city needs to have refresher courses on CPR, a vital necessity in today's day and age, that we have committed to that, and this year we will be in a position that during our annual training at our firing range, we will be able to train all of the officers who work the streets in that critical retraining for CPR, something that he is committed to and champion going forward. He is also seeking, as we are, to embrace technology so that the technology of the camera systems and the various other technologies that are out there to assist us in solving crime and preventing crime. And I might emphasize the prevention of crime. We are all about preventing crime. That's what Sir Robert Peel was all about. The role of the police is to prevent crime. We certainly want to improve our response to it, our real-time crime centers, but we want to do much better in preventing it, because that's why we were created. And the good news is that we're going to be moving forward in a joint effort to basically take CompStat to the next level, which is called predictive policing. We are now in a position, working with various universities, to develop algorithms that, with all of our mapping capabilities and with all of our information, to retrieve information very quickly, to actually, with some degree of certainty, predict where crimes are going to occur unless we, the police, and you, the community, intercede. And much the same as that might seem like science fiction, believe me, that is the world of policing today. That is the world we are moving toward, and that's the world we're going to embrace, because it promises even more ability to reduce crime in this city as we go forward. These can be exciting times. These can be exciting times where we can celebrate crime going down, but we can celebrate how it's going down. And by that I mean in terms of that your young men and women can in fact go about their business without feeling that they're going to be unnecessarily interrupted by our police. That our police officers can go about their business feeling that they're not being inappropriately pressured to conduct activity that they themselves feel might be inappropriate. That we can go about working together to share information, to share goals, and that is our commitment to work not just with you, but to work as police always must for you, and for you with basically common goals. And those common goals certainly are prevention of crime. I'm going to close with a slogan that I'd like to share with you that I've used for many, many years. I'm in a profession that I'm very proud of, and I'm very proud of it because of the men and women I get to work with and sometimes lead. But I'm very proud of that profession also because of the impact it has for you, for the people who live in this particular city or other cities I've worked in. There is no other profession where every day you can get the satisfaction that every day if you get it right, you can have impact on so many lives. You can have a life of significance every day. You can have a life that matters every day. If I get it right every day, 8.5 million New Yorkers have a better life. If Eric Adams gets it right in your borough, every day 2.5 million Brooklynites have a better life. And we are committed to getting it right. And the slogan is, cops count, police matter. The individual action of the cop on the street, day in and day out, can have so much impact on a neighborhood if he or she cares. If she or she cares in such a way that they give respect and get respect. Police matter. Cops count, police matter. The police profession matters. It is one of the most essential of government services. In our democracy that we are privileged to live in, our Constitution, among its guarantees, is public safety. The understanding that without it, all the other guarantees of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all the things that we take so much for granted, without that foundation of public safety, all those pillars that we depend on so much are going to be not on firm ground. We have the opportunity working together to create a firm ground here, to create cement that cannot be cracked. Cement that we cement our relationships in a way that, like that subway pole, we are strengthened because we are all together and not working against each other. And that is our commitment to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bratton. I would like to introduce to our group here, the dais, if I may. To my right, we have Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, the Vice President of New York Board of Rabbis. We have Chief Joseph Fox, Commanding Officer, NYPD Transit. We have Chief Owen Monahan, Commanding Officer, Patrol Borough Brooklyn South. We have Chief Thomas Chan, newly appointed to Transportation Bureau. We have our famous First Deputy Borough President, Diane Rayner. And of course, the Honorable Borough President Eric Adams. The Honorable Police Commissioner William Bratton. Patrol Borough Brooklyn North Commanding Officer Gerald Nelson. Patrol Borough Brooklyn North Executive Officer Steve Powers. Patrol Borough Brooklyn North Executive Officer Jack Trebitz. Newly appointed Commanding Officer on the Brooklyn Borough Housing Chief Dave Colon. Patrol Borough Brooklyn South Executive Officer Jeff Madry. Executive Officer NYPD Transit Bureau Vincent Coogan. Patrol Borough Brooklyn South Executive Officer Kenneth Corney. And of course, NYPD Housing Bureau Carlos Gomez. Since I made one mistake, I'll have all of you please introduce the commanding officers yourself. I'll start with your right.
Yeah, before you do that, I think it's important that you see who the commanders are. Oftentimes, the commissioner is the face of the department, but you know, these men and women behind us that are in charge of precinct geographical areas in the city, the days of being a 9-to-5 commander is over. They spend countless number of hours, and they receive so little credit. You know, when the police knocks at your door, they're normally not there because you invited them to a party. So We just need to, from time to time, just recognize what they do every day as a precinct commander in charge of the police officers, in charge of the area, and they go beyond the call of duty, particularly here in the borough of Brooklyn as well as throughout the entire city. So we just want you to put the command and the name to the face, that these are the finest of the finest that serve in the borough of Brooklyn, our precinct commanders. So one at a time.
Deputy Inspector Vincent Giantaggio, the commanding officer of Transit Borough Hall.
Heavy Command, Special Projects, Patrol Borough, Brooklyn North.
Deputy Inspector John DeRose, I'm the executive officer, Housing Borough, Brooklyn.
Captain Bill Taylor, I'm the commanding officer of the 6-2 precinct.
I'm Rabbi Alvin Cass, Chief Chaplain. I'm not a commander, I am commanded. Deputy Inspector Joseph Lott, Commanding Officer, 73rd Precinct. Deputy Inspector Eddie Lott, Commanding Officer, 77th Precinct.
Deputy Inspector Scott Henderson, Commanding Officer, 88th Precinct.
Deputy Inspector Mark Cavallo, commanding officer.
Good evening, Deputy Inspector Anthony Tasso, Commanding Officer of the 83rd.
Deputy Inspector Michael Petrie, Commanding Officer, 79th Precinct.
Justin Lenz, commanding officer, 76th precinct.
Good evening, Deputy Inspector Michael Detto, commanding officer of the 66th precinct.
Deputy Inspector Andrew Costello, the Executive Officer.
James Ryan, Commanding Officer of the 94th Precinct.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Inspector John Cosgrove. I'm the Adjutant in Patrol Borough, Brooklyn North.
Mr. Minetti, Patrol Borough, Brooklyn North.
Good evening, Stephen Capasso, commanding officer, 75th precinct.
Deputy Inspector Vincent Taggio, Commanding Officer of PSA 2. Deputy Inspector Jim Rooney, Commanding Officer of the 6th Precinct in Coney Island. Captain James Colombo, Commanding Officer of Brooklyn South Task Force.
James Grant, commanding officer, 72nd precinct.
Good evening, Deputy Inspector Richard de Blasio, Commanding Officer 6th Precinct.
Good evening, Captain Ken Quick, Commanding Officer of Brooklyn South Specialized.
Hi, good evening, Captain Max Valentino, Commanding Officer of the 84th Precinct.
Good evening, Deputy Inspector Lolo Bay, Commanding Officer of PSA 3.
Good evening, Captain Raphael Mostel, Executive Officer of PSA 1. Good evening, Captain Gus Haas, Commanding Officer of Transit District 34.
Captain Stephen Hill, commanding officer, Transit Kings Task Force.
Hello, everyone. I'm Inspector Ellen Chang, Commanding Officer of the Community Affairs Division.
We were promoted captain together.
Sorry. Last but not least, Deputy Inspector Michael Amiri, Commanding Officer, 78th Precinct.
Good evening, everyone. Deputy Inspector John Rao, Commanding Officer of the 63rd Precinct.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Captain Mo Dresser from the 69th precinct. Good evening, Inspector Frank Cangerello, Brooklyn South Special Projects.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Frank Giordano, Commanding Officer, Transit District 33.
Captain Stephen Zano, commanding officer, Transit District 30.
Good evening, Captain Anthony Santorino, executive officer, 70th precinct.
Deputy Chief John Essick, formerly Brooklyn South Borough.
Good evening, Deputy Chief Pat Connery, Chief of Brooklyn Detectives.
Good evening, Inspector Michael Kemper, Detective Borough of Brooklyn.
Deputy Chief James Essie, Executive Office of Brooklyn Detectives.
So as you see, we are privileged to have so many commanding officers. Let's give them a round of applause. Before we're moving forward with the program, we would like to hear, of course, from the commanding officers of the Patrol Borough Brooklyn North and Patrol Borough Brooklyn South. So I would ask Chief Gerald Nelson to give your remarks, please.
Good evening. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Borough President Eric Adams and, of course, Diana Renner for inviting us to this type of forum. It's a forum where we see what we do, and we acknowledge what others do for us and the way we work with the community. As the police commissioner said, moving forward, we're going to reinforce the things that made it work right from the beginning. Strong relationships with the community, strong relationship with our clergy, strong relationship with community leaders, and we'll work forward to move forward and make sure that the city is much safer. I also like the fact that the Borough President Eric, I gotta get used to that.
Still Eric.
Still Eric. Acknowledge the men and women behind us, because like you said, you see us speak all the time. But these are the nuts and bolts, the bread and butter that get the job done. I want to thank you once again, President, and I want to also thank the police commissioner for his vision, starting it all back in the 90s. I was there then. Moving forward, he's come back. I'm looking forward to the things that you're going to put in play now.
Chief Monahan, please.
Good evening. Well, like my good friend and neighbor to the north, Chief Nelson, I would also like to thank the Borough President for facilitating this meeting of good friends and, more importantly, partners in our fight against crime. Thank you, Police Commissioner Bratton, for your kind words and supportive words. And I do pledge to the men and women of Brooklyn South are certainly adhering to the principles of Sir Robert Peel and to getting things done. And like Chief Nelson said, getting things done is done by the men and women behind us, leading Brooklyn South and Brooklyn North to great things. So it's a great opportunity to meet and greet with all of you. And again, we pledge to keep the momentum going, as the Commissioner said, crime reduction and collaborating with, again, good friends and partners of Brooklyn.
You can't have a meeting in Brooklyn without hearing from Chief Fox and Chief Chan.
Thank you, Borough President Eric. Thank you, Commissioner. Some of the transit commanders were mentioned, introduced themselves behind me here. And as the Commissioner said, about 6.5 crimes a day in the system. About 34% of our crimes happen in Brooklyn. So that gives us about a little more than 2 crimes a day in the whole borough, in the whole system. So those COs and their teams work very hard at each of those crimes, at the deployment. And I just want to let you know a way that you can help them and help us and help each other. A very important part of the strategies that we employ is community notice. So in particular in this transit system, if you go into any car and it's, any train car and it's got a number of people on it, you'll find at least 5 or 6 people with their phones out, almost hanging off their fingertips and, sometimes dozing while they sit in their laps and headphones over here. And just for ourselves, just think about that. Think about where we are. It's a safe system, and it's a safe city, a safe place, which is why people feel comfortable doing that. They'll actually wait till they get in the subway to catch up on their emails. But what I'm suggesting and asking is, pay attention to when you're doing that. Look around, pay attention to where you sit, and you'll see Transit Bureau officers in blue shirts in the system giving out flyers. We do that every day, every tour. They're the size of an envelope. They're blue. I wish I had one to show you. And there you go. D.I. Costello has all the tricks on them. Andy, if you could just hold it up. It's just a picture of a woman, and she's sitting right by the door of the train, and she's got her phone, and it's getting snatched, and train door closes, there goes the crime, the victim, there goes the witnesses, there goes the crime scene. So when you see those, and you see Transit Bureau officers handing them out, say, can I have 5? And then give 4 or 5 to your friends. And another thing, people feel comfortable closing their eyes on a train. Now, I'm not suggesting you wake up somebody when they're sleeping, because they can get kind of cranky. But seriously, you'll notice sometimes somebody move from one spot in the car and go sit next to that sleeping person. Keep your eyes on that exchange constantly. And in that case, it may not be a bad idea to carefully go over and pretend you're asking that person for directions. Oh, Bill, do I know you from someplace? Is that you? And because that's actually what our cops do at the nights in particular, and it's how they make some of the arrests. So help us, help each other, and thank you all. Thank you, Borough President.
Good afternoon, Borough. Good afternoon, Borough President Eric Adams, Commissioner Bratton. In terms of Vision Zero, we will certainly seek the cooperation. We have been working closely with the Department of Transportation, the Taxi Limousine Commission, and other city agencies. But we will seek the help of the elected officials, our community supporters, our groups here, and to work together to come to this Vision Zero, to reduce the number of collisions, injuries, and fatalities that are occurring in New York City. Again, and one of the major components certainly is our media here. As you publicize our efforts and get that message out to the public, and we will continue to work with our other partners, including the Department of Education, to make sure our seniors, our children are out there and they're more careful, and our motorists slow down, and collectively we will come together to reduce all the collisions, injuries, and fatalities in New York City. So it's a partnership. We need your help, and we thank you for your support. Thank you.
We're going to open the floor to a few questions. And what we want to do, Abe will point them out, but I just want to do 3 acknowledgments, and I'm glad they're sitting together. Leslie, who's our police liaison here at Borough Hall. Our district leader Renee Collmore. And there was one more person I had in bless you. We have another district leader. Oh, okay, Pastor Monroe, who's helping our clergy. And we just made, we're building a team here in Borough Hall, and we picked up probably one of our greatest acquisitions, Amma Jamo, who's going to deal with issues around crime against children. She built the Crime Against Children Bureau in the District Attorney's Office, and now we have her here. She's in the back, Amma Jamo. We thank you so much for being part of the team. And the person who really identified the issue around terrorism before any of us understood that, she lost her son on Brooklyn Bridge to terrorist violence, Devorah Haberstein, that's over here. Thank you very much. So we're going to open the floor. A. Freeman would pick out the people for the questions. A few questions. Now, if you have questions that we're unable to answer today, you email it to Ask Eric, and I guarantee you we'll get it to the commissioner's office or his staff, so we'll be able to answer the questions. The commissioner has other stops, and I have 4 more stops. Brooklyn is a big borough, and once we wrap up here, there's other things we need to do. So if we don't answer all of your questions, we will get to them, and I'll make sure that it's over to the police commissioner. So we're willing to answer any questions from anyone in the room except for the press.
Okay, first question, Tony Herbert.
First, let me just say greetings to you, Commissioner. And you're not lying when you talk about some of the greatest people to work with. I've had the privilege and honor of working with a lot of your commanding officers and resolving a lot of issues in our community. The biggest thing going for us as community leaders right now and residents is this gang violence in our communities. That's an issue we need to address, and it's our hopes that we can formulate a bit of a task force, culminated with the involvement of the Civil Liberties Union, so that we can sit down and talk about ways that we can stop this prevalence of gang violence in our community. That was the residual effect of that 14-year-old on the bus, and it's happening in our housing developments all over throughout New York, particularly in the borough of Brooklyn and Brownsville. We need your help in pulling something like that together.
In terms of the term used is crews. That gang situation here in New York is very different than the one I faced in Los Angeles, that gangs there would number in the thousands. In the city of Los Angeles, there were 40,000 documented gang members in that city, population 4 million. Fortunately, here in New York, we don't have anything approaching that magnitude. But what we do have is those localized neighborhood gangs, many of them in and around the housing developments of the city. And we have a number of initiatives that have shown great success over the last year or two, various crew-related initiatives, some at the local level, some at the headquarters level, so that the crimes involving the crews have declined. But as overall crime in the city is going down, it is quite apparent that a significant part of the violent crime that is still remaining is in those crews. So we have a number of additional initiatives that we're going to be working on, not only from the traditional police side, if you will, investigation, arrest, apprehension, but some of the initiatives that have worked here in New York and around the country, some of the programs involving Dave Kennedy's Operation Ceasefire. I had Connie Rice, woman civil rights advocate. I worked very closely with the Los Angeles in my office today. Some of the successful efforts they've made there in their housing areas in Los Angeles, I think, are transferable here. So much of this is going to focus on that 14 to 22 age category. And there's a lot that has been done, but we are committing to doing a lot more. But we are going to need your help. It's quite clear that this is an issue that cannot be solved or resolved by the police alone or the courts. I've recently met with Judge Grasso, who runs the arraignment courts, and the chief judge of the courts. They are looking at a number of initiatives to work with us on some of these beginning crew members as they're arrested by us, to try to find ways to, as an alternative to getting jail records, et cetera, find alternative ways to effectively get them into environments where they can effectively expunge that record if, in fact, they are able to turn their lives around with our assistance. So we're not just, this is a problem that we cannot arrest our way out of the crime problem. The future in this city is not going to be in handcuffs as far as the NYPD is concerned. It will require some of that for some of these people. That's unfortunate. There are some of them that have passed on, that beyond our ability to help. But many of them, particularly the younger ones, there is that ability to get their lives turned around, and we're committing to working with you to find alternative methods other than just the arrest and prosecution. Some of these lives we can, in fact, work on preventing them from moving into that life from which there is no escape.
Thank you. Question number 2, Professor Ryford.
Sorry. First of all, I want to thank the Borough President and his able assistant, Dave Friedman, for putting together this meeting today. I also want to welcome great Commissioner William Bratton coming back to New York. You remember when he was here in the 90s as the senior Jewish leader in the community and a police liaison since 1974. I think I speak on behalf of the entire Jewish communities that we are here to let you know that we are going to continue the process of having the relations that we have with the police department for many, many years. And we will continue being there for the police department because we know the police department is there for us. They sacrifice every day their lives, and they have the courage that almost nobody has in the entire United States that New York City Police Department has. And they fight crime vigorously. So we are here to help them, stand by them, and be there for them at any time. This is a statement. Commissioner, I just have one question on the issue which the mayor had on the vision, on zero vision on the traffic issues. And I know as being our city councilman for 8 years, I worked with the mayor very closely dealing with relations to the police department and other issues, is that in our communities, mostly I would say Borough Park, Williamsburg, and Flatbush, we have a major issue with the traffic because of the buses of the children, the parochial schools we have. We have hundreds of buses every day. And it's such a traffic when kids go to school. I was wondering, is there anything, I know eventually we'll have a meeting with Chief Chen on it, but is there anything that you feel there'll be an increase in traffic cops? Is there anything going on that they can be of help as fighting this traffic that goes on, especially in the mornings and the late afternoons?
I'll ask Chief Chan to speak briefly to what he has been working on and what he is going to be working on as part of the mayor's overall scheme. I'm not familiar with the specific issue you're talking about, but if it has anything to do with traffic and traffic congestion and potential for accidents, Tommy Chan is going to be the person we're going to turn to for resolution of that issue.
Thank you.
Rabbi, one of the things that we're looking forward to do is working with the Department of Education and also the private schools themselves, yeshivas, is that the individual principals will work with the department in developing traffic plans around their school, which may include a drop-off program where, in the manner in which parents and also buses drop off students so that we can facilitate the movement of traffic during the dismissal and also the arrival times of the schools. So again, we will be working closely with the Department of Education, private, parochial, and yeshivas to address that particular problem.
Thank you, Chief. One more question.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Roger French. I work in the Brooklyn Heights area. Foremost, I would like to congratulate the NYPD because New York is the biggest city in the world. And I think they do a really tremendous coordinated job of keeping the city safe. I mean, I can come in at any time and not feel a sense of, being robbed or attacked or anything like that. So I really commend NYPD, first of all, for, just your support keeping the city safe. Now, my question is to President Adams, Deputy Rayner, as well as Commissioner Bratton. Do you think, like Tony just said, the incident that happened on the bus with the kid and the gun, do you think that a measure of sort of a refined stop and frisk is needed in order to prevent something like this from happening again? Thank you.
This morning I spent about a half an hour looking at the videos of that murder on that bus. That bus was equipped with about 6 cameras, so you could see it from every angle. And so I spent a long half hour looking at that murder over and over and over again. And the idea that there were 2 young men, at least 2 young men with firearms, we're not sure just how many of them had firearms because there were quite a few of them engaged in what was basically going to be a gun battle on that bus. Fortunately, the others were not able to get their guns out before they fled. But clearly, there are still too many young people who, for a variety of reasons, whether it's fear or intimidation, are carrying firearms. Our challenge, your challenge, the community, is how to be able to deal with that issue. One of the ways, or one of the tools we have, is stop, question, and frisk. But I think it's quite clear that in the last several years in this city, there was a belief in the community, particularly in communities of color, and a belief within the police department itself, as clearly articulated by union leaders and others, that the practice was being overused. And in its overuse, that in some instances it was abused, in some instances respect was not given, and in some instances possibly even the law was not complied with. So that there is no right number when it comes to stop, question, and frisk. What is right about it is that it is done lawfully, that it is done respectfully, and that it is done consistently. And that is what we are committing to. The numbers that we are now looking at, that I review every morning, indicate that stop, question, and frisk has been reduced by almost 90%. Combination of department oversight, also just police officers on their own, not being pressured to produce numbers. I want quality, I don't want quantity. I want effectiveness. I don't want just statistics. And the way we have to go about that is effectively using the tools that are available to us. So stop, question, and frisk will still be conducted by this department, as it has been. And as we saw with the incident involving the 2 young recruit officers, one of whom was shot, they were going about their business of beginning to conduct a stop, a question. It hadn't even got to the level of a frisk before he pulled out his gun and started shooting at them. So quite clearly that our officers need to have tools to protect themselves, to protect you. And one of those tools is stop, question, and frisk. Mayor de Blasio campaigned on it that he would reform it, and we are reforming it, but he did not campaign on any promise that he was going to eliminate it, because you cannot eliminate it. Not so long as there's so many young people in this city who feel that they have to carry a gun illegally and use that firearm, as we've seen too often in the last 2 weeks here in Brooklyn. So we will continue to stay focused on our mission, but we will commit to, in everything we do, doing it within the law.
And I just want to add on that. I would not live in a city where police officers are not allowed to stop, question, and frisk someone that is suspected of committing a crime. And the clarion call that resonated throughout the entire city was not to take away a tool of the police, was to stop the abuse of the tool. Stop, question, and frisk is a powerful tool that I use as a cop, and I supervise my officers as a captain. And no one should ever advocate the removal of that tool. That tool saves lives, and if it's used correctly, it can save the public trust in the system. So we want to be clear on what Mayor de Blasio has stated and what the commissioner has stated. We're not taking away any tools that police officers are allowed to use in a constitutional manner to keep the public safe. Thank you.
I know there are a few more people that were saying they want to ask questions, but the commissioner has a tight schedule, so we're going to move along with the program. I'm going to bring, for special remarks, I'll bring Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, who is a familiar face by many, to give his remarks.
Thank you, Abe. Firstly, let me say that I'm not a commanding officer. Rabbi Cass says he's the commanded. I'm the guy who keeps the commandments. So thank you so much. Also, I want to tell you about an innovative valet police parking program. Those of you who parked illegally, when you leave tonight, please know your cars are safe and secure. You can pick them up at the Navy Yard. Let me say to you, I want to quote a great theologian, Eric Adams. When he was installed as a state senator, he spoke of the following situation. He said when he ran for office, you have to campaign, you have to raise funds. There was an elderly woman who handed him a container with small change, with coins. She said, I wish I could give you more, but I don't have more. But I have great faith in you. And I want you to look at this jar of coins during your term in office and remember the little people. And I think what Borough President, the Commissioner, this very, very special person, Abe Friedman, has been able to do is to remind us that we're all the little people. And Chief Fox, in his native Yiddish, often speaks of a shadchan, a matchmaker. So Abe, thank you for bringing us together in this match. Commissioner, I'm a fellow Bostonian. You know, the home of the 2004, 2007, 2013 world champion Boston Red Sox. But when you travel...
And maybe 2014.
Exactly. When you travel in the New England towns, you'll see very often a house of worship, a courthouse, and a police house contiguous to one another. And maybe that's a visible reminder how all of us have to collaborate, and what is said in one place has to be seen in the other place. Those of you who travel on the Bell Parkway, well, let me correct that. Those of you who sit on the Bell Parkway, when you come to that intersection, Verrazano Narrows Bridge, belt, what do you see? The Fort Hamilton Faith Chapels. All these different faith chapels next to one another. And that too says to all of us, yes, as Pope John Paul II reminded us, there are different paths to God. But as we all know, and we must teach our young people, there comes a time when all of us need to walk in one path. Different faiths, one family. Amen.
Well said, Rabbi. Last week we had a Passover briefing Joe Eisendorfer put together for us, and that was the vision of those who were here for that. So we thank you for that.
Okay, moving along. In the borough of Brooklyn, we have many heroes. One of them are here tonight, and I'm going to give to the First Deputy Borough President, Diane Rayner, to do the presentation.
So this is our opportunity to remember the little people, right? One of many of us in this room who is well deserving of such distinguished honor. This particular individual, a resident of Bushwick, 83rd Precinct. One of our very own was just minding his business, and it goes to show you when one Brooklyn reacts, we are one borough working to keep each other safe. Osvaldo Valdez is an exceptional individual who, while parking his car, was witnessing what was an interaction between a perpetrator and police officers trying to detain the perpetrator. And it goes without saying that there was some scuffle, and it was important to detain that perpetrator, but it wasn't enough so that this perpetrator continued running away. Well, Osvaldo Valdez, as much as the police is always trying to tell us, do not get yourself involved, right, Inspector Tasso? And I know I don't follow that rule in Bushwick either. We have an extraordinary citizen in Osvaldo Valdez, and we wanted to truly just call him our Brooklyn hero. We commend him for being the most selfless of bystanders, whose intervention in a dangerous situation under the threat of gunfire ensured that the officers of the 83rd Precinct apprehended the violent perpetrator. Osvaldo removed the weapon in use and secured the offender into a position of submission, protecting from harm not only the officers, but everyone else around him. We congratulate him, and as he is most justifiably honored here today, and we thank him for all of what he does to help make Brooklyn a better place to live, work, and raise a family. And this is a community where one would always say, back in the 80s and 90s, don't go to Bushwick. Today, everyone's dying to go to Bushwick. Osvaldo?
Okay, we're moving along because the commissioner needs to leave. I would like to ask your attention for one more minute. Closing remarks and special presentation by the Borough President.
we want to wrap up our last remarks in the presentation, to my friend, Commissioner William J. Bratton, here at the meet and greet. This is the energy and spirit of what this police department is going to represent, and it's a clear indication that these are great years, and it's a reflection on the spirit of the mayor of the city of New York, when you could have a room full of diverse citizens applauding their police and stating that we want to have a partnership with our police department. And the commissioner is sending that message throughout the entire department. So this proclamation is for you, and we wish you the best of luck in your return to the city of New York.
Okay, this closes the program. Thank you so much for everyone taking the time. Have a good night.
Thank you. Owen.